Go back into South Bend's history. 20 years, 50 years, 100 years, and what do you see? You see groups of people working to bring change to this city. They had different ideas of what that change should be. They didn't always agree. Yet, in every decade, there were groups of people for whom positive change was their life's work. This podcast, South Bend's Own Words, features the voices of people who helped make the city change. We'll share clips from the oral histories done by the Indiana University South Bend Civil Rights Heritage Center that tell a more complete history of the city. It's the story of many cultures, not just one. It's the story of South Bend. In 1970, Ricardo Parra attended a Mexican-American conference held at the University of Notre Dame. He stayed in South Bend to help organize and direct a new Midwest chapter of the National Council of La Raza, a progressive Chicano political advocacy group. Over the following decades, both Ricardo and his wife Olga Villa became integrally involved in South Bend's growing Latinx community. They allied themselves with almost every local organization, like La Raza, El Campito Children's Center, the former El Centro Migrant Advocacy Center, and of course, La Casa de Amistad. Olga was a strong leader, had a love for life, and deeply supported those who worked with her. In 2014, Olga passed away at the age of 71. 4 years later, in 2018, I sat down with Ricardo, along with Valeria Chamorro from the Civil Rights Heritage Center. We talked about Ricardo's arrival at Notre Dame, his life with Olga, and how the local Latinx community has grown and changed over the past 50 years.
My name is Ricardo Parra.
So we want people to understand a bit about your life history, your life story. So can you start just by telling us when you were born and where?
Well, I was born 1946. I grew up in Kansas City, Missouri, and then later on, I ended up coming to Notre Dame, South Bend, and did some work here in this area. So most of my adult life was probably spent in Indiana and in the Midwest, yeah.
Where did you go to high school?
I went to several high schools. I was a bad student. But my dad was persistent. He says, go to that one, go to that. Okay, no, you're going to go to that one then. But you're not quitting,
Was there any education beyond high school too? I should say formal education.
Formal education, yeah.
Of course there's education beyond high school.
Yeah, well, I graduated, got my BA from Northeastern Illinois, and then later on I also took classes at Notre Dame while I was there. So, I'm here, but I wasn't, a full-fledged student. I was a part-time student and this type of thing. And then I took advantage of IUSB and had classes at IUSB. Plus, and so graduate studies. I had some graduate studies like in economics and other things like that.
When did you come to South Bend?
1970. I attended a conference. It was the American Conference held at Notre Dame. And it was sponsored by the Institute for Urban Studies, and it had to do with the idea of organizing an organization known as the Midwest Council of La Raza, and I was fortunate to be part of that, be part of their board, and later on I became part of the staff.
So you were in your, what was that? I'm trying to do the math. That was your late 20s when you came here to Notre Dame?
I think maybe like 24, 25.
Yeah. So when you first arrived here, tell us about what was South Bend like, and what was it like to you?
Well, I got to know the Notre Dame community and then the South Bend community, and we did some projects here in the South Bend community with the Midwest Council of Raza. We had a migrant resettlement program. We had other resettlement programs in other states, in Minnesota, in Wisconsin, and Illinois, and those were transition centers to aid in the farm worker community settling out. And we had some settlement projects here, working with Ivy Tech and some of the other institutions here. And then some other homegrown institutions like El Campito Daycare Center and other projects here. and of course working along with the South Bend Community School Corporation.
So roughly when did you get involved with El Campito?
Well, that was early. As a matter of fact, I think it would be like 1971. That was the whole need for the migrant resettlement program. For people that were in the program, we needed a place for them to be able to put their children. And so that's how we started. And it's still running today. So that's wonderful. I think it's been here for over 40 years.
Were you involved with La Casa de Amistad as well?
Right. I was involved with that. At first, it was like a youth organization. My compadre Benito Salazar was very involved with that.
Another one of those organizations, LULAC.
Well, yeah, we worked with the LULAC and folks like that, and so that was good. So just try to collaborate with rather than compete. They're doing something that matches up, and we can help out.
I want to talk about Olga as well later, because you said you worked with her, and then of course you two became married.
I remember Olga that always a happy person, and was a good encourager of people, to go beyond what they thought they could go and do more than what they thought they could do. And she could work with. She had the skills of. She had a very broad vision and knew a lot of things. And she worked well with people and could get people that don't agree to work with each other. And so I think that was the skill. She had these people skills that you don't find in too many people. So she could read people, and I guess the other thing is that she was a real lover of people. She loved people. I mean, she really genuinely loved people, even those that might even oppose her. She had a very good sense about things, and a very strong spiritual vision that she had. That kept her going. She she loved people. I could say that, and she was happy. And she tried, and he was a good encourager. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that was all that. Yeah.
Of course, you two became married.
Later on, we got married. Yes.
You were married for how long again?
Maybe 37 years.
Sure.
But I knew her for more than 40 years.
Sure. Yeah. She became your partner in many things, in life and work, I'm sure.
Life and work, yeah. My compañera.
So your hub is here, both on the campus of Notre Dame and in the community, and working across.
Right. So a lot of people say, well, how can you do all of this? Well, we cannot ignore the community. We are here and we're part of it, and if we're doing stuff in other places, it just doesn't seem right, to ignore the community. And everybody was like-minded about that on the staff. Says, we don't. Some institutions, they may have like national, and they're not involved in community. We felt strong about it, that we needed, and for a lot of reasons, we felt that it was important to be here and be present.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Roughly how many staff members did they have?
It varied. At some points we would have up to 20, 30, 40 staff members.
And so at that point, of course, Midwest Council was relatively young here, right? Relatively new. And forming in response to a growing Latinx, a growing Hispanic community here, not just in South Bend, but in the Midwest, right?
Right.
Now, at this time, our Latinx community comes from the migrant farm track, right?
Yes.
Particularly from Mexico through Texas, and then up into various places in the Midwest.
South Texas, yep. A lot of people settled out there.
I would love to just hear you talk about your experience, your knowledge of that migrant farm track.
In Michigan and Indiana, there was a lot of people from the South Texas area that were beginning to settle out, and some had settled out in a more recent time. Others had settled out many years ago. So, for example, in Detroit, there was a large Mexican community in Detroit that was there because of the auto industry and also steel and so forth. Same thing and that's an earlier community. Later on, the more of a farm worker community started settling out. Yeah, and we work with all those communities, and and so that was a good collaboration to be able to work together. And we also worked in areas like Cleveland and Toledo. And in Cleveland, it's more of a Puerto Rican community, and in Toledo, it's a Mexican community, South Texas community that settled out there.
Can you speak to why choosing South Bend as the hub, as opposed to, say, Chicago, as opposed to Elkhart, as opposed to any other? I mean, of all the cities in the Midwest, why was it that South Bend became the home for Midwest Council of the Raza?
Well, the formation was Notre Dame, but they were helpful. And the students, the professors, some of the resources there, blended well, and we work well. And even the accounting office. In some communities, you see a lot of competition and upsmanship and stuff like that. That's not. I didn't get that feeling here. I felt that there was a well-grounded sense of community here.
Why do you think that is?
I think maybe it's a smaller town. Maybe it's smaller, and maybe it's growing up together. And I think people learn from each other when they go through struggles together. And I think that's being key. And sometimes that doesn't happen in congested urban areas where there's it becomes more of a competitive situation. And maybe I'm too idealistic about it, but I think that's a good thing. I think people can collaborate, work together.
Spending all those years on Notre Dame's campus working with this radical progressive activist in a progressive organization, but fitting into a campus that doesn't necessarily have a reputation of being progressive or radical, right?
Well, I think if you're right, I think there are some tendencies that happen when you have organizations become self-serving and selfish. And so they got to look at cause. What is the cause that we have that created the organization? Are we still serving that cause? People have conferences and they'll have workshops to figure out, and their mission statement and stuff like this. And they have to do that regularly because bureaucracies do that. They become self-serving, and the whole government does that. Politicians do that, and so on that view, if the vehicle no longer serves its original purpose, well, you need a new vehicle, or it doesn't work. Like for Notre Dame, like if you have we're nonprofit, but we're corporate, and you see that happening in Catholic hospitals and other things that become big, and somehow they begin to lose that value about what they were originally intended for. Like for example, if Father John Jenkins comes out with "Support the Dreamers," and then you look at some of the, I guess it must be some of the alumni comments as well. My kid couldn't get in, and how come them, and this type of thing, and don't want to let them in. That's a whole story of immigration. The old immigrants kind of forget and don't want to include the newer ones. They say, well, no, they should do it the legal way. They should do this. They should do that. There is no legal way, and so yeah, that's kind of, and in I guess in some places when it's a new voice, and the older order looks at the new voice and doesn't understand it. Here, like it could be like in the Polish community, like, well, all of a sudden there's this new people that are coming in, but there's other groups now, and younger groups. There's the dreamers, other folks that are doing things. And so people are going to do stuff. So no, just be supportive of new people and the new voices, because that's where the energy's at. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I think that's where it's going to go. Because you're finding that the younger generation is much more progressive. And the older generation, I bet, there's people die, and so it's the younger voices that are key into the whole process of change. That's nature. That's how plants grow and they get replaced.
South Bend's Own Words was created by Kevin Tidmarsh and me, George Garner. This episode was produced by Donald Britt from the Ernestine M. Racklin School of the Arts at IU South Bend, and by me through the Civil Rights Heritage Center. Visit us and learn how IU South Bend students inspired the transformation of a once segregated South Bend swimming pool. We give guided tours and offer public events that show how the history of oppression echoes through the city today. See and hear more history, plan your visit, or share your thoughts about this episode, all at crhc.iusb.edu.